This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview.
Joining us today is Sean Day, the CEO of Greatland Gold. Thank you very much for joining me, Sean. How are you?
Really well, thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me on the program.
Well, it's good to be talking to you. I believe you are back in Australia after a recent week-long trip in the UK. How was the trip in the UK in general? Did you achieve what you wanted to?
Yeah, look, it was a really good trip on the road. Just over 2 weeks ago, we announced the new board, the debt funding, plus the equity. So it was important to get out to shareholders. I was actually in the USA at Denver Gold the week before, catching up with a lot of the US market, then went through London to catch up with our shareholders, both institutional plus a town hall. I think it was really well received, but important to do.
Okay, excellent. Well, of course, you have had the results of the EGM today. That was, of course, the resolution there to allot shares to enable the funding of that 35 million to complete with Wyloo's Metals. So everything was passed successfully. You're very happy with the outcome?
Yeah, look, a really big turnout, which was overwhelmingly, exceedingly supportive of the resolutions. Which didn't surprise me because it was really essential to have that funding in Greatland and be confident we were fully or well funded for the Havieron development. So a good outcome. I think it was a good transaction for shareholders and great to have that level of support and understanding in the shareholder base, which dovetails back to your question, Mark. Why did I spend 2 weeks on the road? Just to make sure I caught up with everyone.
Excellent. Okay, well, that's good to hear that was approved. So you can get that financing all sorted. Now, I have a question that came in, someone sent to me just regarding that, actually. Assuming the approvals are received at the EGM, which they have been, and the funding goes ahead, can you confirm that it is sufficient to reach the FCF and avoid any further dilution? They say they have seen a number of miners lately who have secured debt financing months ago, but come back to the market with additional raises citing buffer for inflationary pressures. So are the banks happy with GGP's cash position, and are we genuinely fully funded?
So look, it's a good question. I'll answer it in two parts. So the second part first. So in terms of are the banks happy? Yes, that's why we went out and raised the amount of equity we did. That was part of the hurdle we had to jump over to make sure we could fully access that debt. So I think an important milestone, and perhaps it puts in the quantum of equity we raised in context. In terms of are we fully funded? Look, super important question. Yeah, I'm pleased it's been raised. Look, I use the phrase well-funded. Look, you look at the amount of CapEx we needed in the pre-feasibility study, it's 98 million. We've raised more than double that amount. I think what we've done is positioned ourselves so I can say with absolutely confidence that we're very well-funded. We're certainly fully funded for the pre-feasibility study. I think we have a feasibility study, which Newcrest continues to tell the market is coming out in the December quarter. So this quarter that we're presently in, I think in the back half of this quarter. Of course, we'd like to see that feasibility study before we put in print we are fully funded. But having a buffer, having been aware of inflation, being aware of the project development, I think made us conservative in how we funded, to give us confidence that we will be able to come out and say, that is sufficient, that is enough, we are in a great position.
Okay, well, we can await that feasibility study. Thank you for giving us a bit of a loose timeline on that. So that's December quarter, towards the end of this year. Hopefully that will come out from Newcrest. Just on Newcrest then, and of course the new investor, Wyloo, I think that perhaps the assumption was that Newcrest would take this project all the way, or indeed maybe take over Greatland Gold. But do Wyloo throw a bit of a spanner in the works here? Is there a potential bidding war perhaps that might happen?
Another great question, and thanks. Look, I think it's always good to have competitive tension in the case of competing bids. We think we have a world-class asset in Havron next to infrastructure in a tier 1 jurisdiction. So we think it would appeal to a huge range of investors and strategic investors. I think orthodoxy has always been that Newcrest would have a great interest in consolidating, ownership. And I think for that reason, we've always felt there's asymmetrical risk in our share price. If we're not successful at promoting the company, at moving up our market value with the evolution of Havron as we continue to de-risk and grow it, at some point, a takeover hammer could fall. Okay. Conversely, we like to think if we're successful at articulating the opportunity at Havron, at least theoretically, there's virtually unlimited upside. So that's what I think is one of the attractions of our stock. There is this asymmetrical risk, and I think you can now see a situation where the window to buy us opportunistically is perhaps closed because there are multiple well-financed parties that have an interest in the project. And I think that's good for shareholders.
Yeah, well, a very good position to be in, for sure. I think it's enviable for a lot of other mining companies out there who aspire to achieve a similar situation. I wonder if I could just talk to you a little bit about recent new board appointments, the directors' appointments. What can you tell me about that? Is that part of the sort of longer-term plan here with GGP?
Yeah, very much. Look, I'm a huge believer in having quality teams, and I think the board we have would be the equal of any in the country. It is an exceptional board. We have Jimmy Wilson joining in an executive role, part-time executive role, but he ran a number of divisions in the world's largest miner, BHP, including, nickel, but also BHP there, which is a huge value division, I think widely seen as 2IC and really an amazing operator within BHP. To have him on the team in that leadership role is outstanding. Deputy chair joining on or before 1st of January, Elizabeth Gaines, just stepped down as managing director and CEO of top 10 Australian miner, Fortescue, ASX top 10, a $50 billion company, presided over an amazing period of growth and strengthening of Fortescue, both operationally and from a balance sheet perspective. Her credentials, including her kind of broader private equity and strategic background, are a huge bonus to the company. And then joining as chairman from the 1st of January in a very orderly kind of transition is Mark Barnabar, ex-global head of Macquarie Resources investment bank, together with deputy chair of Fortescue, again, ASX top 10 company, and then also sits on the board of the Reserve Bank of Australia, our Bank of England. So, again, an extraordinary, individual and strategic insight. I've been speaking to Mark and really that whole team over the past 12 months. And, to have that kind of horsepower and capability and strategic view and access to capital on our board, I think really distinguishes ourselves from our peers. And perhaps in a market where access to capital is tighter, that creates another competitive advantage for Greatland, in addition just to having that level of strategic input into how we conduct ourselves to make the most of what we have, both in terms of opportunities and to make the most of the asset platform, including Havron.
Excellent. Well, significant board appointments there, as you say, and I followed the Greatland story for many years. It's fantastic to see the company in this position with the funding behind it there, and of course the project that you've got, the resource that is there. I wonder if I can perhaps just finish off by maybe getting your vision, if you can. It might have to be very loose, but maybe you have some more specific objectives over the next 2 to 3 years. You said there during this interview that you're well funded. The feasibility study is coming out this December quarter. So what are the main things you're looking out for over the next 2 to 3 years? Is it possible at this stage at all as well to give an idea of valuation, or is that really dependent on that feasibility study?
Look, let me talk to it around our strategic and growth framework, which has 3 pillars. One is to deliver an expanded Havron. And when I think about Havron in a 3-year timeframe, and this talks to value, Mark, it is, I think in 18 months' time, say we'll be in production. I think that's a significant de-risking and value creation event. Say 18 months after that, we'll have ramped up to that 300,000-400,000 ounce per annum, including copper production profile. Now, that is also, you're going to see really strong free cash flows coming through. Again, a huge de-risking event. I think we walk up the value curve through that process. In addition to that, in that same 3-year window, you'd expect us to come out with, say, a pre-feasibility study on the next stage of Havron development and advancement into that bulk mining. So I think there's a huge organic growth window with Havron over the next 3 years. Pillar 2 of our strategic strategy is to continue to invest in the drill bit. There is no better place to look for gold and copper than where it's already been found. We hold tenements along strike from Havron. We really want to unlock the option value in that by continuing to undertake exploration drilling. And again, this funding allows us potentially to accelerate that. So that's very exciting. And again, striking another Havron would be simply stunning. But next to infrastructure, that hurdle for economic value is decreased. So if it's a half Havron, even a quarter Havron, you still created a huge amount of shareholder value. So I think that's another really important pillar to our strategy. And then thirdly, the inorganic growth opportunities. We have this amazing group of team, both at the board level, plus I'm really proud of what we've put together at a management level, and the capacity that we've put together, which is how we were successful in terms of executing the funding, navigating the option process with Newcrest, and having what I think was a hugely successful last 12 months. But I think having that team, having that access in terms of the Rolodex of the directors and the team here, having the access to capital, both with Wyloo, Tribeca, that cornerstone, the equity raising, but also just I think the attraction that Greatland now has with funds. And again, we've seen that increasing institutionalization of our share registry, supporting the strength of the existing retail base. So I think all of that in what could be a difficult market, or what is presently a difficult market, having that advantage in terms of access to capital, I think puts us in a fantastic position to be a counterparty of choice with other opportunities in the sector.
Excellent. Well, that's a nice summation there. You've made it quite clear. 18 months into production, and then another 18 months. So that's your 3 years there at getting to that 3,000 to 4,000 ounces of production per year. So yeah, that's pretty short, really, in mining terms for investors anyway in that space. That's a pretty quick timeline. Further resource discovery and building out on the team and, of course, the operations into a significant company. So very good to hear that, Sean. Thank you very much for giving me your time today. Just getting a catch-up there. Sean Day, the CEO of Greatland Gold. Thank you very much for your time.
Mark, thanks again for the opportunity. I enjoyed the discussion.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.